and CEO of Focal Point Solutions.
And I'm Richard Toling, Chief Technology Officer.
At Focal Point Solution, we specialize on-prem and M365 planning, implementation, custom development, user adoption, all the way through governance, security, compliance to Syntex and Viva.
We look to help you as you venture through your journey, partnering with you to leverage the power of the Microsoft suite of technologies for your digital workplace transformation.
If you would like to hear more from Richard and I, please attend M365 Taste of Chicago, where we're talking about a case study of migrating from 2010 workflows over to Power Platform. It doesn't matter if you're coming from 2010, 13, 16, or 19, the same process exists. Feel free to come and join us during that time. And as well as I'm going to be doing a session about cool and exciting ways to utilize forms to engage your users. Hope to see you guys soon. And I thank you for everything.
All right, go ahead and share your screen, João, and I'll turn over to you. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. Let me know if you can see it and if you can still hear me.
Audio's good.
And can you see my screen?
I am trying to get back. Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
All right.
I'll be on mute. If you need anything, just let me know. I'll be.
Okay, absolutely. All right, so thank you everyone for joining this session today about Microsoft Teams and SharePoint and how both products are communicating together and working together to improve the modern workplace. The title of the session is How Microsoft Teams Will Bring SharePoint Back to Life, and I will be explaining you how you can leverage the use of the SharePoint you already have along with the hot new product from Microsoft, Microsoft Teams, and how your users can take advantage of all the content that you have been producing over the years now in a central and connected location. So before I get into the introductions and into the presentation, I would like to give a massive thanks to all our sponsors. Make sure you visit their channels and have a look to their products. And let me talk a bit about myself and who I am. My name is João Ferreira. I'm from Portugal and I'm based in Oporto. I have a degree in computer science and I've been working with Microsoft technologies for almost 10 years now. And I was always focused on SharePoint and the modern workplace. I started with SharePoint 2010, and now I went all the way to the latest version of SharePoint and Microsoft Teams. I'm also the author of 2 books, Hands on Microsoft Teams and Hands on the Microsoft Lists, that I co-author with another Microsoft MVP. And I'm the proud author of 4 blogs about Microsoft 365 technologies, where you will be able to find a lot of information about SharePoint and Microsoft Teams and how to leverage those 2 platforms to a whole new level. So in this session, we will start by seeing what is Microsoft Teams, just in case someone just start using the platform right now. So Microsoft Teams is the hub for the teamwork on Microsoft 365. It's the fastest growing business app ever released by Microsoft, and the growth of this platform and the numbers that Microsoft is crushing every 3 months are just incredible. So COVID played a big role in the increase of the use of Microsoft Teams, but there were never an application in the business area that had a growth so big as Microsoft Teams. And if everything is set up around the business logic of the organizations, most of the users will be able to do all their daily tasks without leaving Microsoft Teams. And there are people saying that the next version of Windows will be in reality Microsoft Teams, because in reality you don't need anything else to do your daily tasks. You can access the web, you can access Office, you can access your files, wherever you want to do, you can do directly from the Teams context, while you continue to communicate with your peers during the workday. And this all is extended to the mobile version and is accessible through the cell phones as well. So in a nutshell, this was a brief resume of what Microsoft Teams is. Obviously, it has much more than this, but this gives you an idea of what Teams is today and what it is right now. So this, I believe it's the last number. Microsoft has been introducing and has been presenting new numbers every 3 months, and 145 million daily active users. It's a huge number. This slide is part of all my presentations about Microsoft Teams, and this is one of the slides that I always have to review, and I always have to make sure that it's still correct and that I'm not missing some of the users that are already using Teams. So just to share a bit more about the architecture of Microsoft Teams, I often use these 3 Russian dolls as a representation of what a team inside of Microsoft Teams looks like. So this is the hierarchy of the components that you will find inside of a team. So you have a team, you have then a channel inside of that team, and you can have multiple channels and 3 types of channels. And then you have tabs that are nothing more than apps that you can install from a central app store, exactly like the one we have in our smartphones. These apps can be published by other organizations and other companies, can be provided directly by Microsoft, or your organization also have the possibility to custom build applications and then distribute them through the entire organization through this global app store that is accessible to all the users. So where does SharePoint comes into the equation of Microsoft Teams? So far I've only been speaking about Microsoft Teams, and everything seems to be awesome and incredible, but underneath Microsoft Teams, it is SharePoint, along with a few other applications that are part of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, but one that plays a major role in this Teams environment is SharePoint. And without SharePoint, the structure that you have in Microsoft Teams wouldn't be possible to exist. So they share a common architecture between Teams and SharePoint. When you create a team, everything that you see being created physically, the team, the channel, the app, that has a representation inside of SharePoint, and I will show you in a minute how things look like. There are tons of integrations available between SharePoint and Microsoft Teams, and SharePoint knows exactly when a modern SharePoint page is being rendered inside of Microsoft Teams, and it immediately adjusts the context to the Teams environment, so it gets a more native experience directly inside of Teams. Then we have files that play a major role in Teams and in the SharePoint environment. We have news, we have rich landing pages, SharePoint lists or Microsoft lists that now have its own application in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. Very recent, and this might not be available to everyone yet, but meeting recordings are now being stored in SharePoint and now no longer in Microsoft Stream, even though it might still work in Stream for some of you, some of the tenants and some users. It's not rolled out worldwide yet, but this is where things are going. And then obviously the hot topic of the moment, Microsoft Viva and Viva Connections. That's the image that I have here. That brings SharePoint with everything it has, with all its potential, directly to Microsoft Teams and to the Teams But before jumping into Microsoft Viva, let me just share a bit more between this bottom layer of the integration and the common grounds between Teams and SharePoint. So here we have a Microsoft Teams structure. We have Team A with channel A, B, and C. And in here on this example below, we have the representation in the SharePoint side. So for each team that you create in Microsoft Teams, without knowing it, you are creating a site collection in SharePoint. So the site collection, if the name is available, will be the name that you provide to for your team without the spaces. And inside of that team, you will have the shared documents, the default document library that all site collections in SharePoint have. And every time that you create a channel, and we are talking about regular channels, the one that all the members of the team have access to, you will end up getting a folder inside of that document library with the name of the channel. So this is the structure that represents this structure at the top here. So then on a more complex scenario, we have the same thing, but here channel C, it's private, which means that it's not available to all the users. And in the past, when using SharePoint only and with the concept of subsites, this was a nightmare. So you had to break the permissions. You had to define permissions for a specific subsite, and things could get ugly and messy real fast. And you could easily share information that was not supposed to be shared with other users by mistake, just because the permissions were not right. Well, with the new modern approach that Microsoft is following, where all the new sites are site collections and the use of subsites is not recommended, even though it's still possible. When you create a private channel with restricted access to team members, you will end up getting actually another site collection. When you access to all this content from Microsoft Teams, what you will see is a unified experience. Behind the scenes, you don't see and you don't need to know any of the URLs. Microsoft Teams unifies all these disconnected things that in the past were exclusively on SharePoint and made SharePoint so difficult to use. Now Teams unifies this, and what you will see in Teams is channel A, B, and C. If you have permissions to access to channel C, then you will be able to access to the files as well. But as you can see, channel C generates another site collection, and this site collection has a concatenation of the name of the team with the name of the channel and its own document library. So this is how things work in the bottom layer of the integrations between Teams and SharePoint, and this is how Teams makes the use of SharePoint a lot easier just by unifying the experience in a common location with a user-friendly interface where the user doesn't need to know anything about URLs or permissions or whatever. If the user have access to it, it will be there in their lists of teams. All right, so moving on to Viva Connections. So Viva Connections, it's a super hot topic right now. Every week we have new content being announced for Viva Connections. Connections is not yet fully complete in the Microsoft side of the house. It's being gradually released, and today I will be able to show you pretty much all the components that you will find in Connections in the future, but they are not yet fully connected and fully available for you to use. But without explaining this in detail, let me first show you how and talk about how you can get Viva Connections. So Microsoft did a lot of noise around Viva Connections and all the 4 pillars, but if you go to Microsoft Teams, even if you are an administrator, you will not find your Viva Connections application. So far, Microsoft is providing Viva Connections through the use of a PowerShell script, and there are actually 3 ways of getting the app built. But to get that, there are a few things that you will need to guarantee. You are a SharePoint administrator, a Microsoft Teams administrator. It's recommended that you have a communication site, and actually the communication site is mandatory, and it's recommended that that communication site is actually a home site, and that you have the global navigation for SharePoint for this unified environment enabled, so you can take fully advantage of the system. So the process, it's pretty straightforward. There's one version that it's not officially provided by Microsoft, but it's supported by Microsoft, that works in Windows and macOS, which is great because the official supported way to get the application generated and installed only works in Windows, and that's using the SPO management shell. The process still is not fully automated. You still need to upload then the app manually to Microsoft Teams and as an administrator, and then add it to policies so the users can see it. And I will show you in a minute the three process. Not available for Mac OS. PNP PowerShell fully automates the process, installs the applications and all of that. But again, still PNP PowerShell is not yet available for Mac OS. And this led us to Microsoft 365 CLI. The experience, it's fully automated. It installs the execution of the script, installs the application in the Teams Admin Center if you are an admin, and obviously can be executed and run from Mac OS. So Viva Connections is nothing more than your home site inside of SharePoint, but instead of getting all the SharePoint components, what you will get is a home a SharePoint app var condensed with all the objects into a single var. You will get access to your SharePoint search directly from the Microsoft Teams search bar, and you will get all the content from your modern site right from the beginning. And now we will also be able to have a new set of web parts called ACEs that allow you to build dashboards that will then leverage the power of Viva Connections in mobile devices. And you might have seen those already in the demos from Microsoft, in the mockups. They have been advertising since the beginning and since the release, but they are not yet available. They are in public preview already, but they are not available yet. So let me jump here to show you our first demo. So instead of going through the three different processes, let me show you how things get generated. I wrote 3 different articles that you will be able to find in my blogs that explain step by step the 3 processes, the creation and the installation. This is the one for Mac OS that works in Mac OS and also in Windows. You just need to provide to type the commandlet, install the tool, type the commandlet, and then provide the details, the URL for the tenant, the name for the app, the description, and the URLs for the privacy policy and the icons, and that's it. It will generate the package, and you will get it in your Teams tenant, and your users will be able to add it, or you can manually add it through policies to all the users and make it as the first app here, so your users get immediate access to the landing page of your SharePoint intranet directly from Teams. And this is the same thing, but using SharePoint on PNP PowerShell. And here is the official one using the PowerShell script that Microsoft provides. In here, you will find then the instructions to install the application manually, because this does not install it, and the end result will be the same exactly with the three things. So let's see how this looks like in SharePoint. So this is my actually my home site, my landing page for my tenant, where I have news, I have my frequently visited sites, and so on and so on. And I have this local navigation. And if I click here, what I will get is a global navigation. This is common to all the pages that I have in my tenant. I have the list of my frequent visited sites. I have my news, and I have my recent files. So this is what SharePoint now gives you with a new app bar. This is the default experience. And now if I open here Teams, and because I already installed the application in here, this is Viva Connections inside of Teams. What I get is a condensed version of that SharePoint bar. So the same experience, but inside of Teams. If your users turn on the computer and the first thing it opens is Microsoft Teams, then this will pop right in front of their eyes. So they will get access to your communications through SharePoint. If you publish something, it will appear in your landing page. It will appear in your bar. So you are propagating your communications through a variety of channels that all lead to Microsoft Teams. Ultimately, everything becomes available from here. So the bar is here. And search, if I do here search, and if I search for Microsoft, you will see that this suggests me to do a search in Teams, as it should, and also in SharePoint, and opens SharePoint and shows me the search results inside of SharePoint. So wherever, again, the user is working, it sends the user to the right locations, and they don't need to know anything about SharePoint. So Teams is always sending them to SharePoint when it's needed. When it's not needed, they showcase the information directly from the Teams interface. Any questions so far about Viva Connections and this integration before we jump into the next batch of integrations that the platform includes?
Nothing in the chat yet, but feel free to post.
All right. So moving forward, working with files. As I explained before, Microsoft Teams has files built in out of the box, and you will easily find those. And let me switch back here to Teams, the other Teams tenant. All right. So if I go here to a team, and if I go, for example, here to this Project X team, the second tab you will find in all the teams, it's the Files tab. This is not possible to change. You cannot rename it. You cannot remove it. It's here, and you have to deal with it. This, however, is a direct link to that folder that I mentioned before in SharePoint. So it opens the folder for the channel with all the files and with all the recordings. And this one in particular doesn't have anything other than the recordings that I made in meetings in this channel. All the recordings now in SharePoint are stored in the recordings folder. If they are stored, if they were made from a channel in Teams, if they were one-to-one or a group call, they will end up in the OneDrive of the user that started the call. But this is what you see. And as you can see, you can sync this from here to your computer. You can open in SharePoint, and you can manage all your files directly from here. And if I go here to contest, and if I open files, you will see that it opens the folder inside of the library. And if I open the library, and if I go back here, it has all these folders that belong to other channels. From here and from the general channel, you will be able to navigate back as well. Now Microsoft Teams includes a breadcrumb that allows you to navigate back, so I can have the same layout and the same behavior. But what if you had another folder, another library created in SharePoint and want to display it also in Microsoft Teams? Because you don't need to store everything under the same document library. Your business logic might require you to create a separate document library, and that will be available also to you through the use of the SharePoint applications. So in Microsoft Teams, and Teams is available for 4 years almost, you will find 3 different SharePoint applications. You will find Document Library, you will find SharePoint Pages, and you will find the SharePoint app. I would say that you don't need these 2 anymore. These were the first ones that were introduced. They do their purpose, but now everything is condensed in here. But anyway, I will show you both because visually they look different, and you may prefer use one or the other. So this first one, the document library, allows you to select the sites and then select the libraries, and when you post it, you will see that it looks different than the other one. You get access still to your documents, but there's no breadcrumb, there's no sync. You can still interact with the documents and all of that. There's no view selection like exists in here. And the library itself does not adjust to the theme, to the branding of Microsoft Teams. So it still feels a bit an experience that it's a bit disconnected with the system. If you use this app instead, what you will be able to do from here is select document libraries, and from here you will be able to select the current team or any other SharePoint site. And this could well be a classic SharePoint site if you still have those around in your organization. So all you have to do is paste here the URL, and then you will get, and just to exemplify with the same one, you will get the same experience. However, still the layout, it's a bit better. You get access to the filters and to the views, and you will get all the modern features that you don't get with the classic or with the older document library dedicated application, but still it misses some of the features that you will find in this first one. So right here you have 3 different ways, and your users will interact with files in SharePoint, even though they all come from the same location, in 3 possible ways. This might seem a bit confusing, but I'm sure that Microsoft in the future will unify all these experiences, and you will get access to all the content exactly using the same interface, so your users don't feel lost when they access to document library and all of a sudden the layout inside of Microsoft Teams changes and is different. That can happen just by changing the application when you create the tab inside of the channel. All right, moving forward, rich landing pages. I've showed you already Microsoft Viva Connections, and one thing that I want to mention about Viva Connection that I didn't mention before is the fact that this is a full width application inside of Microsoft Teams, so which means that you don't get any of the tabs at the top, but you can create your own applications inside of Microsoft Teams using the App Studio that will bring SharePoint to Microsoft Teams and to the Microsoft Teams context, the SharePoint pages that you have in your intranet as an application, and you will be able to get multiple apps. So here from the App Studio application that exists in the App Store, you will be able to create multiple applications. And if I'm not mistaken, I have probably I have it here already installed. Let me just look for it in here. I think it's one of this. All right, it's exactly one of this applications. So what I have here, it's a custom application that has content from other locations in the web, but here at the bottom of the tab, the tab area, what I have is a SharePoint page that is acting as a tab in my application, and the user doesn't even realize this is SharePoint because none of the navigations, breadcrumbs, or footers or others are available here. But still, the user can click in the globe icon, and it's redirected again to SharePoint. And from here, you will have access to everything that SharePoint provides about this page. So this is easy to create. However, you should be aware of a small trick that you should take into consideration still today. I'm sure that in the future this will disappear, but let me edit here the manifest, and I apologize for not going through the details of creating all these apps, but this would be a whole session just about creating this kind of apps. Here I have tab number 11 and number 12, both pointing to the same page, but if I edit them, you will see that this goes through a Teams logon ASPX page in SharePoint first, and then with a query string with a destination parameter, then it redirects the page to the correct location, and when the user clicks in the little globe, it opens the URL. This is how you should reference SharePoint pages if you will be embedding them in a custom application. And this is how Microsoft embed pages using the SharePoint applications. If you don't do this, and if you are using the Teams client, what will happen if your user haven't clicked in the Files tab, or if it's not logged in SharePoint yet, is that the user will end up with an authentication error, and he will not be able to see the content from SharePoint. So make sure that you use the Teams logon page, and if you do it this way, everything will work fine. It will be transparent for the user. He will not see any of the authentication. All happens behind the scenes. But if you use the direct link, you may have this issue. This is documented. I believe that Microsoft now has a video explaining this process. I also have it in my blog. So if you go to my Teams blog, you will find detailed instructions on how to use this URL. The other way of doing this without using a custom application is using the Teams SharePoint application again. And in here, what I will do is just show you the setup of the SharePoint pages. Very limited when compared with the other ones. Only gives you access to the pages from this site. You can click here to add another page, but still the interface, it's not the best one. The end result, though, will be the same with one or the other. But if I go here and click in SharePoint, and from the same site, I will get also access to my pages, my list of pages, and here I can put any other SharePoint site and paste the link. Way better user experience here. And let me select the home, or this one, the annual conference that has an image. And again, what you will see here is the page without any of the brandings. And if you have multiple web parts in the page, the users will be able to continue to interact with those, and will be able to continue to interact with the content. So if I click here in See All, instead of opening all the news in SharePoint in the browser, I'm able to see all of them direct SharePoint. And navigation has occurred here, but for the user, it's still the application inside of Microsoft Teams, and you are showing them the content from SharePoint without them even noticing that this is SharePoint running behind the scenes. All right. Let me go back here, just checking here the comment section. Nothing so far. One other thing that is possible to do with Teams and SharePoint and Microsoft lists is the use of lists inside of SharePoint and inside of Teams, sorry. And here, what you will see is the possibility to create, sorry, let me click here again, is the possibility to create and embed a list using the SharePoint application directly from here. So I can access to my list of lists from here. So and I can post them. However, and since Microsoft has a dedicated app now to manage SharePoint lists called Microsoft Lists, and Microsoft Lists all of a sudden became a new product with much more features that complement what Microsoft have been built for SharePoint lists over the years. What I suggest to you is use Microsoft Lists applications, even if you don't have your list created with this application, you will be able to access to it from here. So this application, apart from giving you access to the existing lists, allow you to create lists directly from Microsoft Teams. So you will be able to create the SharePoint lists directly from the Teams context. And you have a set of templates that you can start with, or you can start a blank template, and each template allows you to see a preview of what you will be creating. And obviously, all of these can later on be modified, and you can rename things and format lists according to your needs. Just to show you what you can do with the power of these lists now that they allow custom formatting, let me add here another list application, and I believe I have weather list in this tenant. So let me search here for weather. Maybe I don't. Anyway, so what I wanted to show here is the possibility that you have to customize the layouts and see how this list has receipt scans, and as you can see, you can open then the preview of the image and show them in SharePoint in the browser. This is also available for you to showcase in here with more details. So this is another view that you can add to your list content directly inside of Microsoft Teams, and you can custom build these things using JSON. I wouldn't lie you, the process of building these things, it's still not easy today. There's a lot of potential, a lot of power behind the formatting scheme, but it's very easy to make a mistake, and it's still very complex. Microsoft needs to work better the way for you to customize these things. But what you get by using this application out of the box, it's super cool. And let me just try to show you here one thing. Actually, I thought it was in here, but it's not. I've built some time ago a preview for these images, so the users don't need to leave the list. So when you over the images, they open in a side preview. All of that was built using the extensibilities from SharePoint, list customizations, and it also works inside of Microsoft Teams. All right. Moving forward, and I covered this already with the extend Microsoft Teams using the App Studio. I've mentioned everything that it's important in here, but I mentioned also that I have an article about it, and let me bring it here to you. Or maybe search for Teams log on. All right, so is this one, how to fix authentication issues with the personal apps using SharePoint pages. this is the JSON file that it's generated behind the scenes in the app when you do things manually, but when you do it with the App Studio, you get access to this interface that is much more friendly. So all you have to do is use these URLs that you have here. All these URLs, including the wildcards, are the ones that Microsoft uses. So you need to put them in your domains and permissions in the application. You need to use this ID for the authentication. This is the Azure ID for the application that does the authentication. This is the same for all the tenants. This exists by default in all the tenants. It's just a matter of copying and pasting it and add it to the app. And then everything will work flawlessly if you follow these instructions. In the future, Microsoft will take care of this automatically, and you will not have to deal with this kind of issues, and the authentication will be made disregarding the way you add the page to the tab. But if you choose to extend and to create your custom apps using this method, be aware that this might occur to you if you don't follow the instructions. So this leads us to the end of the presentation. But before showing you the last slides, I want to cycle back all the way to the beginning of the presentation and show you what Microsoft has now in preview for Microsoft Viva Connections. Again, this is in public or in private preview. I think it's in private preview, but I will not be showing you anything that Microsoft haven't shown before. And if you go to the Microsoft 365 YouTube channel, you will be able to see a demo from Microsoft showing exactly what I'm about to show you. And this is a dashboard that you will get with your new connections, web parts that will allow you to create a new experience for your users to interact with SharePoint directly from Microsoft Teams. So let me go to site contents. Site pages. And somewhere in here, I should have a dashboard. Exactly. So this is something that probably you will not see in your tenant yet, since it is still in private, but this will be the next step for connections. This will be the next major step for the integration of SharePoint and Microsoft Teams all together. And each one of the cards that you will create here are in reality web parts. These web parts can be out of the box ones provided by Microsoft. There's a few already available. I'm sure that Microsoft will add more to this list, or as a developer, you will be able to build your own application using SharePoint Framework. And these applications then will be displayed to the users in the desktop and the tablet and in the mobile. And the mobile, it's particularly relevant because this is what users will see when they access to Microsoft Viva Connections from the mobile. So Viva Connections is not available today in the mobile, but when it becomes available, what users will see is the content that you have in these cards. And this can be content from your SharePoint. This can be your news, can be your communications, or it can be content from outside of the Microsoft ecosystem because you've built a custom application for Viva Connections. But this is the future of the Teams and SharePoint and Connections integration. And this is what we will all get our hands on before the end of the year, hopefully, if the announced dates do not are not extended before the end release. And with this, I conclude the presentation. So let me just show you the last, the last slides. I'm sure if you attended other sessions, you've seen this already. Please join the M365 Chicago supporting the public schools through the Children First Fund. You can find all the information using this QR code or in here. All donations are highly appreciated. Again, a massive thanks to all the sponsors and help us to improve this conference. For me, it was the second time that I attended this virtual event. Chicago is one of my favorite cities in the world, and I would like to see, and I would like to return when the event becomes available in person. But for that, you need to tell us everything you like and you don't like about this format, so the organizers can improve the conference for future references, for future events. If you need to get in touch with me, or if you want to get in touch with me after the session, you can find me at hands-on SharePoint.net or hands-on Teams.net. You have here my email. The best way to, or the fastest way to get in touch with me is through Twitter. That's where I'm faster to reply. And here you also have the book covers of my two books, Hands on Microsoft Teams. It's publicly available since May last year, and Hands on Microsoft Lists. It's in pre-sale and will be released next Friday. All right, so I think we still have a few minutes left. Let me check if there's any question. All right, seems that we don't have any questions. I will be here a couple more minutes, so if you have any questions, just write them in the chat window and I will be happy to reply to them. All right, have a good day and thank you all for joining this. Bye-bye.